Hi and welcome back to AHA Golf. We're down here at the Springs again in Oxfordshire on this fantastic autumnal day, and as ever delighted to welcome back Tyger to the Academy.
Delighted to be here.
Excellent to see you again. How are things?
Yeah, they're not bad, mate. Yeah, life in general has been pretty kind in the past couple of weeks, and the golf practice has been coming along relatively nicely, I would say.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. You all good?
Yes, thank you. Very, very well indeed. Just touching on the practice sessions and sort of thinking back to when we last saw you, there were some interesting developments technically with sort of left arm positioning and the rotation. Perhaps you could just talk me through how it's been going.
So yeah, I've been down the range quite a few times. Still, trying to focus on my posture, not rushing balls, trying to take, the right amount of time over each ball. And focusing on what you said, really trying to sort of, in one instance, sort of visualise my actual swing path and where the club is actually coming out and where it's coming back in, whereas before I was really just swinging blindly.
Right.
And focusing on that left arm position, trying to keep it close to my chest on the backswing and the follow through. And what I found is that I am hitting a lot more balls straight. My cuts or my slices are coming down in frequency, definitely, but then again my sort of hooky shots are slightly coming up in frequency.
Right.
Which is interesting, but I suppose I'm maybe sort of overcorrecting and then we'll just tune it back a bit more, sort of thing.
I think going back to the very first time we looked at your golf swing in terms of putting that roadmap together, that longer term sort of picture, often you have to really take the mechanics quite a long way away from where your sort of comfortable feel is to sort of get you in the middle.
Yes.
In addition, with pre-shot routine and preparation, how has that been coming along? Because we talked a bit on the course, didn't we, about just giving yourself a bit more time to perform the movements.
Yeah, and I just think making sure before I hit every shot, I've been trying to make sure I feel kind of comfortable, and that just before I go into the swing, I kind of know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Not that it always goes right, but I kind of have a checklist where I think, right, I'm going to move this to there, and then as I come through, I'm going to try and pull down, and then I'm going to try and keep this arm there. My feet are in the right place, the ball's in the right place, I feel comfortable, I feel balanced, let's go for it. So that's
Fantastic.
kind of the sort of what's going through my head.
Well, you've certainly got a good checklist.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before about stretching and trying to sort of aid the progression along so you feel a bit more comfortable. How's that been going?
Yeah, so I have been stretching actually, because I was sort of surprised with how athletic the golf swing that you kind of you're aiming for me. It felt so athletic. I thought, God, I need to stretch so my body can get in these positions more easily. And so I have been, and I've been doing some sort of general stretching and some ones that I think are going to help me rotationally. And I think it's helped me sort of with the drill that I was doing with keeping the head cover. In keeping that arm there, I've been able to sort of get further back a little bit more easily and not feel quite so uncomfortable at the top of the swing. So progress there, I think.
Well, that's great to hear. Given that you're fairly athletic yourself, did that surprise you as to how much sort of demand it placed on different parts of the body?
Yeah, it really it did surprise me in the way that there is actually so much more to a golf swing than I really anticipated. And I know I'm not there yet, but I know at some point in the line I'm going to be having to think about my ankles, and I'm going to be having to think about things that I'm not thinking about yet. But in the past it was literally just, there's the ball, I'm going to swing my arms back and try and hit it. Whereas now I realise there's lots of things that need to be done right for a golf swing to be done correctly.
I think, as you said before, it's that kind of the multiplicity of the components all coming together and gelling it at the right time, really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I'm looking forward to having a good look today on video.
Okay.
Seeing where the mechanics are, and again, more of the same, but just trying to perhaps introduce some fresher ideas, because you've clearly spent a lot of time working on the drill with the head cover, feeling the connection. So hopefully we can take that to another level for you and see how it's looking.
Okay.
That sound all right?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Right then, Tyger. Is that your 7-iron?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic. So just looking at your ball to target line here, that central poplar on the horizon. Okay. So I'm going to video you down the ball to target line. Super contact. Lovely shot, well done. And I'm now going to come across and film you face on.
Okie dokie.
Okay, good. Very nice tempo.
Well, that was dead straight.
Well done. Right then, Tyger, so it's looking a lot better. It's got the V1 footage here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we've obviously got down the line here on the left-hand side and then face on. And just one small minor observation that I would like to just highlight here. For me, even though your overall posture position and your pelvic tilt and the hip hinge at address is massively better, so I mean really good work for that, by the way. I know you've been putting a lot of practice in. I would just draw your attention here to your shaft plane at address. For me personally, I'd like to just see the club shaft slightly higher, so just a little bit more upright. So you've got the hands closer to the chin line. In essence, what I'm trying to get across here is this line should be a little bit more to here.
A little bit more like that, yeah. Okay.
Okay, does that make sense? So
yes.
You'd have a bit more space to then move the club. Apart from that, the setup's looking really good. Face on again, really pleased to see how shoulder positioning, the width of the stance, you've worked really hard there, and it's good to see that slight flaring of the feet just to help with the rotation that we spoke about, so that's really good. What I will draw your attention to mechanically today is, as we start the film running here, can you see how initially the club face works a little bit on the closed side away from the ball? So if I put a line here to match your club face points down a little bit to the ground.
Yeah. No, you're right. See, I think it's because my instinct was always, I've got to try and keep the club face as is, kind of thing. I've got to keep it all the same all the way through the swing so that I make good contact with the ball, but I suppose that is not the case, although slightly counterintuitive.
You're right though, because certainly yesteryear, way back when, the concept of the golf swing being a pendulum motion, almost a one-dimensional pendulum motion, was very much in the foreground. But if you think about it, you're standing away from the ball, so you're swinging on an inclined plane, so everything's rotating, so why wouldn't the club face rotate? That's an easy way to sort of match it up. But it's a good point that you make, because certainly swings of the 60s and 70s were very much, you know, that wide one-piece move with the face staying quite shut early on and then picking it up and hinging. I think for you, with your body shape, it'll be a lot better for you to just introduce a bit more face rotation.
Sure, I'll think about that.
And that'll help you to just fold and hinge the club slightly better. If we just zoom in here, can you see if I put a little circle around the left knee, can you see how it...
Right in there.
Yeah, you see it really wants to work towards the golf ball, doesn't it? It's not quite... If we look at the face on as well at the same time, you can see a lot of body weight there is getting stacked on that lead side. And even though you've done a super job here with the thoracic rotation, you're just not quite shifting enough into that right side to then enable you to transition.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I think today I'll just show you up to the top here, because it's quite an interesting, certainly setting the club a lot better, lead arm in a much better position here. See how it's much more across the body compared to where it was. But shaft just creeping a little bit across the line there at the top, pointing a little bit right of target. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which again links in to the weight being slightly stuck. When you start to transition face on, you can see that left hip sort of spins out the way a little bit early, mainly because all of your weight is already on that left side. So if we had coiled you up into the right side a little bit better, you'd then want to transfer the weight.
Sure.
Does that make sense? I think today what we need to do is just put in a couple of fresh drills and sensations so you can really feel how the coil shifts into that right hip, and then get you feeling the transition with a little bit of weight transfer.
Brilliant.
All right. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, Tyger, so just to try and take this on with some fresh feelings for you, if you'd like to take up your address position for me. Okay, and like we said, with that setup position, just Very good, yeah, just trying to feel like the butt end of the club is a little bit higher up. So an extension of that line would go more towards the middle of your belly button area rather than just having it too much down. Okay, so that's the number one key thought with your setup, okay? So from that position, if you can move the club for me to sort of halfway back and stop. Okay, good, right, stay there, okay, stay there. So I think what's happened a little bit in your endeavours to try and create this connection between left arm and chest, you've just slightly compromised the rib cage rotation, yep, and the width.
Yes.
So I'd like to just readjust you to here so you can feel the club's a little bit further away from you, okay? And we're not having as much lateral shift of the hips on the way back. So if you go back to address for me again, so let's just rehearse the positioning with the shaft position here, slightly higher, good. Good work as well, by the way, with the right hand grip. So now show me that first move and stop, hold it there, good. So again, just feeling it a little bit more to here. Okay, can you feel the difference here?
Yeah.
That's the key feeling for you at the moment.
Yes, that's exactly where I can feel it.
Okay, right, so we'll do one more where you can actually feel the sensation. So hold it there, we're just having the club a little bit high, good. Okay, right, so halfway back and stop. Okay, good, hold it there, that's much better. And then eventually this will soften and hinge and you'll be in this position here at the top. Okay, hopefully the other thing that you will be able to feel now is that your sternum is a little bit more over this right knee.
Yep, totally.
As opposed to the old position where you're a little bit reversed.
Okay.
Okay, so if you go back again to address for me, setting up, thinking about that initial shaft angle, moving the club halfway back. Good, there we are. That's the sort of move I'm looking for. Much better here with this rotation. So now what I'd like you to do is set up for me, swing to that halfway back position, have a slight pause, okay, and then pull the trigger. Good, very nice. Okay, I like that a lot actually. So let's have exactly the same again, please. So setting up, thinking about the discipline with the shaft plane at address, that butt end up a little bit more, good. Away we go. Good, okay. Interesting, yeah, now that's an interesting reaction with your balance. What did that feel like?
Felt like it was a big gust of wind coming from over there.
Bellowing you backwards.
It did, yeah, yeah.
There's a different type of recovery with your balance, wasn't it? Wanted to come a little bit back towards
yeah, if
this
I
side.
didn't have, you know, if I didn't sort of step backwards, I would have fallen backwards. So there was obviously a, from somewhere there was a kind of backwards force coming.
If you think back to what we said earlier about how the weight works throughout the swing, yeah?
Yeah.
If you don't quite load up efficiently on the way back into the right hip, if we do get stacked here, then because all the weight is stuck on this left leg, it's very hard for me now to push off it.
Yes.
So the recovery is to go back.
Yeah.
So it's an aspect of a reverse pivot.
Yes.
And you know we spoke about the spiral pivot a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
We're close, but it's so crucial now that we just get you to feel the weight, take hold of that for me, the weight coming into this right side a little bit more, okay? So if you set up for me at address, I'm just going to come face on and have a look face on. So if we can just get you setting up with that right hand positioning, yeah, that's good, hold it there, just a little bit more shaft lean at address, that's really good. Okay, now show me that 3/4 back swing and stop. Okay, hold it there, good, stay there. Just try to maintain the flex a bit longer in the right leg if we can.
Right,
okay, yeah, so back to address for me. Okay, so setting up. So really very much as if someone's supporting this right leg. So halfway back and stop for me. Right, there you go. Now see how the right quad has rotated around the knee. Okay, that's the sort of spiral we're looking for. Back to address, please. Okay, so one more where you feel that rotation to halfway back. Okay, good, very nice. Okay, now we'll go back to hitting a couple of shots where you're just slightly pausing at the top. Very nice, hold that finish, super. Okay, swing of the day, sir, well done. Okay, same again. Often the slower that you perform these movements, the better when you're drilling, because
Sure.
that aids your muscle memory
Muscle
longer
memory,
term.
Yeah, can see that.
So keep the discipline with the shaft plane at address. Okay. Good. Hold that finish. Very nice. Stay there. Now you can really see the difference with weight positioning in the finish, more through the middle of the left foot as opposed to working back towards your right side. Okay, good. Well done. Let's just keep the discipline with the setup. That's good. So I want you just to move the club again for me to that 3/4 position and stop. Okay, good. That's very good. Not too much of a lateral shift. A little bit more centered, keeping your width to there. Okay? So the sternum to you will feel like it's a little bit more on top of the right knee. Back to address. Okay, so 3/4 of the way back. Good. Very nice. Can you feel the stretch?
Yeah.
What feels different about that position?
It's my hips mainly. I feel it in the right hip, getting far further round than I did before, which I think when we had the lesson before you were kind of telling me to that, and when I've gone away I've kind of misremembered where I was actually rotating, and have gone away and have kind of gone much more that way.
Yeah.
So it just feels like I really need to get lower back and sort of like upper leg.
Yeah, probably some glute activation.
Glutes, yeah.
I think so. I think by really activating the glutes, Tyger, it will help the spiraling, because it really is a three-dimensional coil. It's not, it certainly isn't, a lot of people think it is, but it isn't a turn and a lift. It really is this up and back sort of sensation. But what can compromise the whole movement, unfortunately, is if your centre, your lower centre here, moves too much laterally, like we spoke about at the beginning. So if it moves too much off the golf ball laterally, then the top half of the structure is compromised. So you end up with the rib cage tipping this way. So for you now, I really feel to push this on, we've got to maintain your lower centre, but still encourage the spiralling of the hips and the shoulders whilst getting the arm in the new plane that we've achieved.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So let's get back to it, please. So set up for me. So keep the discipline with feet positioning. That's good. So show me that first move. Okay, that's good. Very good. That's it. Just maintaining the width as well. Probably feels like the club's further away from the golf ball.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. Right, back to address. So same again, 3/4 of the way back, a slight pause, pull the trigger. Good. Hold the finish. Much better balance. Well done. You must have felt the balance there.
Yeah, felt like a statue.
Not sure I'd go that far, but it certainly looked more centered. Okay, so keep thinking about the butt end of the club at address. It's good. So that first move to halfway back. Hold it there. Fantastic. See how you're blending the arm positioning, so the arm plane, the shoulder plane, and you've maintained your center. Okay, so your lower center hasn't drifted too much laterally, and you've maintained the flex in the leg. It's a lot of detail, but it's important that you can compartmentalize and have little triggers.
Yeah, it is. There's so many little movements.
Absolutely.
You know, just the tiny little things that I'm doing differently with this leg.
Well, like we discussed earlier, I mean, I think it really does sort of wipe out the myth that you don't need to be strong, fit, athletic to achieve all the movements. Because clearly for an athletic guy like yourself, there are areas that need work to facilitate.
I mean, because these are muscles that I've never really worked, because my golf swing hasn't been proper, so they've never really been woken up, and now this is finally their calling to, to come into effect.
Absolutely. Right, okay, so set up for me. So if we keep that shaft plane in the right position at address. Good, very good. Okay.
Silly ball.
That's 3/4 of the way back, and a slight pause, pull the trigger. Oh, fantastic. Hold that finish. Flush as they come.
Yeah, not bad.
What do you think?
Pretty good shot, that was.
You like it?
Yeah.
I'd be taking it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Wow.
Any other key triggers that you can feel with that type of movement? Because I always say to students, I can sort of preach, but you need to be able to bolt onto some key sensations that you can feel.
You're right. I think one of them is going to be making sure I've got, you know, putting a tiny extra little thought into making sure this knee is bent on the way back, as opposed to this one being bent. So while I'm going back, I'm kind of really trying to get the bend in there, like with the first lesson where initially I was really trying to get the shoulder under the chin, and then I've gone away and I've really tried to keep the arm close to the chest. I think going away now, it'll be about making sure I get the bend in that leg, and also just trying to find that position, and just to, you know, visually, that I know I'm not going to be looking that way, but you know, I can just get a bit of an idea visually.
Well, you could set a trend
and kind of feel that.
if it works.
Well, yeah. I feel
There have been some idiosyncratic moves out on tour over the year, so you could set a trend.
I was watching some Happy Gilmore montage last night of pros just doing the Happy Gilmore shot in big tournaments as well. Maybe they were out of contention, I don't know.
Pressure off, perhaps.
Yeah.
You're right. In terms of knees and flexing and angles, don't get too bogged down in sort of individual, we said about a month ago, didn't we, sort of the isolated components, like here, can be too much. Paralysis by analysis, you know, mentally. With knee positioning, we know that the knees are going to have to flex because that's your foundation, but it's how they flex and it's the angles on which they form. That's the real key for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, it's looking really good. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to put you back on the video with you performing this exercise with a slightly different sensation.
Okay.
See how it's looking so you can actually see it, and then bring it together for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Okay, Tyger, so I think that really is now beginning to take some shape, that drill. So what I'd like to do is to put you back on video, down the line and face on, with you really trying to picture and hone in on that key thought where your lower centre is not moving laterally off the ball as much, and you're maintaining the flex in the right leg. 3/4 backswing, pause, and then pull the trigger.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so same target line. You tell me when you're ready, Sap. And paying close attention to that shaft plane at address as well with the butt of the club. Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. Well done. Right, so I'm going to come and get you face on now, Tyger. So the same key thought for me. Yep, so the centre, your lower centre, is really sort of holding position as you coil.
Yeah.
Yep. And 3/4 length with just a slight pause and then pulling the trigger. Yeah, it sounded super. How did it feel?
Yeah, it came a little bit right off the face, but stayed straight and felt really good.
Your balance was totally different, and the way that your weight, did you feel how your weight had moved a little bit more into that left side?
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it just felt, you're right, when you hit the ball and I feel steady, then I know I've focused on that knee properly, basically.
And could you feel how that right hip was spiralling up so the quad works around the kneecap a little bit more?
Yeah, I can feel that.
That's your key thought, I feel. If your lower centre holds position to facilitate that coil, you're suddenly able to get off that stacked left leg that we talked about earlier on. Right then, Tyger, very interesting looking at the drill. So if we just have a look here, so the left hand image is you at the beginning of the lesson and the right hand image is you doing the drill. Okay, some subtle little things here just to pay attention to. Slightly better flaring of the feet and the ankles here at address, which is good. So that in itself is going to aid the centered rotation rather than that sort of lateral shifting that we saw earlier on. So that's good. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
The other thing, just a slight variance here, you can see how much better if I just circle your hand positioning here, you can see how the right hand grip here is much more on top with your fleshy heel pad covering the left thumb more, which is crucial for you to, when we spoke about club face control and not having the face compromised and shut, so helping with that gentle rotation off the ball. You think you can sort of bolt onto that feeling with the right hand?
Certainly. I think I went away and I tried to work on it a bit, and then you've again told me I need to put it a little bit further over, and like you say, the fleshy part over the right thumb, I can focus on that, and with that little extra bit of control, hopefully, going back, I'll start trying to think about maybe just rotating the club face a little bit more open, gently, and.
So I think, to be honest, with the right hand coming more on top and more neutral, think about cause effect. To be honest, the face will start to react as it should because of the hand positioning.
Right.
So you do have to just watch the sort of manipulation where you try to sort of rotate the blade. I think really with the right hand now looking a lot more neutral, I think it should start to filter in, but we can monitor that. Big thing for me though, if we just take you, so left hand image, if we wind you up to the top of the backswing here, you can see how there's just a very subtle lateral movement of your lower centre here, which compromises your thoracic area. So if I put another line here, you can hopefully see how, even though it's a bigger rotation than we've ever had, your weight's a little bit stacked on that left side. Contrast that with the drill, where we've got you to feel your upper centre holding position more, and suddenly now you can see this is noticeably different with some daylight between the vertical line and your rib cage. So from a biomechanical perspective there, that is really good because you've held position, it's neutral, but you've actually created the spiral. That's really good work. So obviously moving forwards from that, I mean, does that all make sense in terms of what you've got to do and feel?
So I was about to sneeze then. Yeah, it definitely does. I think, the weight transfer is, as I've been trying to go away and work on my swing, I've been sort of building the things that I know I need to work on up. And weight transfer hasn't really been something I've been thinking about yet. I've been thinking about the other things. So, it's obviously the right direction to move in. And I think just thinking about bending that right knee and really trying to move the weight over rotationally rather than laterally, some things to, like we like to say, latch onto that I can go away and focus on.
Sure, absolutely. I think the key thing, just really for you to see from a visual perspective face on, now that you've got a sensation that you can sort of attach yourself to and own in terms of where your weight is, I think over the next few weeks you'll really begin to see a different type of change of direction, because obviously now it's not so much this move with that being compromised, it's more a case of this type of rotation, and then suddenly you'll actually physically want to shift the weight back to the left because it's gone to the right. So if you think about the image we spoke earlier about the discus thrower, somebody throwing a ball on the boundary, really loading it for a right-hander, loading up that right side to then unleash the energy. Because you're storing lots of potential energy, but it's just got to be delivered, hasn't it? So does that all make sense?
It does indeed,
Fantastic, great work.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Tyger, really good to see you again. Many thanks for coming down. It's starting to come together, isn't it? How do you think it's gone, and have you got some quality things to go away and work on?
Yeah, I've definitely got some things to go away and work on. I'm gonna, keep thinking about that weight transfer, that right leg bending, and also trying to just find that position with the arms around here more regularly, more freely. So I'm gonna go away and practice on those things. And so having had 3 lessons now, I'm not necessarily a changed golfer yet, but I have gained more insight than I had thought I would. and now I've got a really good idea of the things I've got to work towards. So yeah, it's been a pleasure as always, Andy.
Fantastic. As we said, it's a roadmap, putting together that longer term plan. You can keep chipping away the incremental gains, and we'll get you onto that new plateau.
Yeah, great.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.